Hey guys, how you going? We're going to do some Australian news on here today, and then we're going to go to Rumble for the rest of the news. Malcolm Roberts here said, how's this for the biggest aircon of the summer? Queensland's state-owned power grid reaches into people's homes 6 times and turns down 170,000 air conditioners. It's called peak smart limiting, and they don't tell you when they've cut your cooling. Instead, they'll tell installers and repairers in case you call them out thinking there's a problem. They hope you won't notice. Have we reached peak stupid yet with the government's net zero target? Energex remotely cuts power to 170,000 air conditioners 6 times in a month. And you won't even know. If you have any smart devices, seriously, consider going back to the old devices. Kelly, I See Dumb People, says she claims claims female staff harassed at Jamboree Action Park's Islamic Men's Only event. Female staff were told to cover up for an Islamic men's event at Jamboree Action Park, with male staff also following suit, but claims some staff were harassed has sparked an investigation. The Sunni Muslim group ASWJ, the Louis Sanar Wal Yamar Association of Australia, had booked out the entire water park on the New South Wales south coast on Monday to cater for an estimated 800 men and boys, with staff directed to cover up and wear long tights. But some female staff were the subject of vile slurs, the Illawarra Mercury reported, including being called a BITCH and SLUT by a group of the visitors. A female staff member went home distressed at the treatment after being told, "You shouldn't be here. Some people do not belong amongst us." Apparently. Wow. Okay, next one. What have we got? Okay, then we have Advance, Fair Oz ADV. Australian Aussie legend Holly Vance drops truth bombs on the lefties. Let's have a look.
And have yours been a right of centre person, or is that, are you a conservative? Where are you politically?
I would say that everyone starts off as a lefty and then wakes up at some point after you start either making money, working, trying to run a business, trying to buy a home, and then realise what crap ideas they all are, and then you go to the right.
Authorised by Matthew Sheehan, Advance Australia, Canberra.
And have yours been...
Okay, then we have Craig Kelly. Jackie Lambie has voted to prevent the Senate from investigating the unprecedented number of excess deaths in Australia. Could her position be related to the medical advice she gave to Australians? I hope Jackie reflects on her position, admits errors, and would change her vote in the future. LCHF Matt said, I wonder why Jackie Lambie voted no. Could be related to this unhinged rant in the Senate where she shamed and lambasted Australians for not taking certain procedure.
Actions isn't called discrimination. It's called being, you wouldn't believe it, a goddamn bloody adult. That's right, it's being an adult. It's putting others before yourself. And that's what this country's supposed to be about. I've got things wrong in the past, I accept that and I'll admit it, and I'll fix it and I'll move it on. That's how it works.
Election and throw you out on the ear. This is about the people's rights and their freedom.
The way out of lockdowns and restrictions is vaccinations, because there is nothing else on the table. Let's be honest about that. It's how we protect ourselves and it's how we protect each other. It's how we stand together. It's how we fight back. It is the only weapon we have. And we need to do everything we possibly can to keep ourselves safe, our kids safe, our grandchildren safe, and our friends and family. That's what we need to do.
You should not need to undergo a medical procedure to earn a living. Everybody should have the right to work and provide for their family. What the hell happened to my body, my choice?
I was brought up in believing in responsibility, to look after people that can't look after themselves. and that nobody owes you anything. So go out and earn what you want. Go out there and earn it. This bill flies in the face of all of that, and that's why I absolutely oppose every bit of it.
Wow, what an angry woman. Oh my goodness. Okay, so she's opposing the bill that would look into anything to do with that. So let's find the next one. Okay, we have further information from the 5 teenage boys that have been charged, including the accused killer, aged 16. Alexandria Marshall said further information. He was out on bail for robbery and allegedly stabbing charges. His family are Sudanese refugees. My family is a good family, said the mother. Really? Queensland police arrest Sudanese teenagers after they allegedly murdered a grandmother for her car, after she handed them the keys. Let me guess, the trauma of their childhood as refugees will be used to mitigate the punishment. This story has been on repeat for a decade. And it has. Prefect said we're being robbed of our wealth. The people of Australia are paying too much tax so these multinationals can make billions from our resources. It's supposed to be the Commonwealth of Australia. Credit Punters Politics on Instagram. Let's have a look.
Boy, how much tax are you paying?
Do I have to pay income tax? How much is it?
How much?
0.
Nothing.
Nothing.
Property tax?
0.
Inheritance tax?
Nothing.
What if I'm running a business?
No tax at all.
Okay. And you also get free healthcare, free education, and heavily subsidised housing.
Yup, you don't need to pay a single thing.
Fine. How? Like, how?
Qatar is the world's largest supplier of liquefied gas.
So all we need is gas. You're never gonna... We have gas. No, like, more than you.
Come on, guys.
But even though we export a lot more gas than Qatar, Qatar collects 20 times more tax on gas than we do.
Qatar's awesome, isn't it?
How much money from gas did Qatar get? 76 billion? So how much did we get? 2 billion. What the f...
Okay, Hayes Media Group. It's every man's right to defend himself and his by any means necessary, as they're a God-given right. Luke 11:21. When a strong man fully armed guards his own palace, his goods are safe. Psalm 82:4. Rescue the weak and needy, deliver them from the hand of the wicked. This week we've seen the consequences of an unarmed, defenceless and pacified population. A single man with the right to defend and the means to do so could have prevented a tragedy that has rocked a Queensland community. She was a 70-year-old grandmother. Her name was Vilene White. Say it again, and never forget. I've been saying this to... Anytime I speak to an Australian about this, they all... Their eyes go wide, and honestly, they look at me like I'm crazy. I think Australia's about to find out the hard way. Okay, Ian Chance said, how do they attend private schools on Centrelink money? What? There's no way you can pay for a private school on Centrelink money unless your rent's being paid for and all your bills are being paid for. I don't know. Angry Aussie, it loves us. No normal person who receives Centrelink. Maybe they could be getting more. Angry Aussie said private school students, so they can't claim an underprivileged immigrant upbringing? At Stephen J. Miles. Private school alleged gang links as teen charged in relation to grandma's murder faces court. So a private school has alleged gang links as the teen charged in relation to grandma's murder faces court. Wow. So if they are, well, no normal person on Centrelink can do that. Unless you're getting extra, I don't know. Harry Nelson said, I'm sorry to the community because I didn't know that the kids do that, the mother who cannot be identified said. So she did not know her son committed 3 robberies and was out on bail? And this is the grandmother who got murdered the other day here in Australia. Kobe Thatcher said, "I'm with Dick Smith on this one. Our country would be far better off if we slashed our immigration intake, especially when we are dealing with a housing crisis." Dick Smith issues dire warning to Australia as he calls for immigration to be slashed. And I agree with that. Let me know if you do. Australian entrepreneur Dick Smith claims high immigration is causing the country's soaring house prices and says numbers should be slashed to just 75,000 a year. Mr. Smith told a Sky News debate on Monday night that high immigration is pushing up housing prices and locking out potential first home buyers. Net overseas migration. The number of people coming in minus the number going out, it was a record 518,000 in the 2022 and 23 financial year, taking the population to 26.7 million. Australia's population is estimated to double in the next 50 years, with Treasury economists and big business interests advocating high immigration to boost the supply of labour as fertility rates fall in wealthy nations. I wonder why. We can continue on that immigration trajectory, but it won't be good for normal people, Mr. Smith said. It'll be great for the wealthy. They'll make even more money. Our billionaires have doubled their wealth in 5 years. They'll keep getting wealthier. The figures are actually worse. At the present growth rate from the huge immigration, we're going to end up with 100 million people in Australia when our grandkids will still be alive at the end of this century. No one believes 100 million is sensible for an arid country like Australia. Mr. Smith argued for migration of about 75,000 a year, the 20th century annual average, which was still in place until the late 90s. Net immigration levels covering permanent and long-term arrivals didn't consistently climb into the six figures until the early 2000s, doubling to 200,000 by 2007 during the mining boom and surging until the pandemic border closure in 2020. The reopening of Australia's border in December 2021 has led to an influx of international students, leading to more competition for rental accommodation and a record low vacancy rate of 1%. Higher paid skilled immigrants have also bought houses, with median prices last year increasing by double-digit figures in Sydney, Brisbane and Perth, even though the Reserve Bank had continued to raise interest rates at the most aggressive pace since 1989. I am pro-immigration. I think it's fantastic, but 75,000 a year will round off our population at about 30 million, and that sounds a pretty sensible number to me, Mr. Smith said. Having more people normally means you're spreading the wealth, and with more people everyone gets less. He explained Australia was not like a manufacturing country like China, and therefore did not need large amounts of manpower. Mr. Smith said Australia did not need a lot more people to do that, and claimed that doubling the population would result in people being worth half as much. He also rejected the idea that immigration was needed due to skills shortage, claiming the country should be able to train 500,000 people out of work. Employers regularly cite skills shortages to justify bringing in more migrants, thereby keeping downward pressure on wages. Every Australian family has a population plan. They don't have 20 kids, and they have the number of kids they can give a good life to, Mr. Smith said. Our politicians should have the number of people in Australia we can give a good life to. That's not happening at the moment. Young people can't afford a house. You're in traffic gridlock. Things are getting worse and worse. Emily Dyer, policy analyst at the Centre for Independent Studies, centre-right think tank, refuted Mr. Smith's argument. Yeah, centre-right think tank? I don't know about that. It's easy to blame immigrants for policy failures for issues like housing affordability, but when it comes down to it, in general, immigrants are adding to our society and making us richer, making us all richer, not just the people at the top, she said. Really? I think it is just the people at the top, because it's affecting the rest of us in a really bad way. We have people, we should be providing for those people, and we're just blaming the victim if we're saying our population's too high. That's why we can't house people. That's a political ploy to take the heat off the politicians that have decades of poor housing policy, have restricted the supply of housing. Really? Well, Labor have been in charge for the last, I think, 19 out of 23 years. So there, that'll be Labor. Mr. Smith said it was not a question of blaming migrants, but the most basic economic principle. Housing, like all commodities, becomes more expensive as demand outstrips supply. We're not blaming anyone. It's just a fact that if in a marketplace you bring in a credible amount of people wanting to purchase houses, you're going to put the price up, and that's what happened, Mr. Smith said. I've benefited from growth without any doubt, but what I'm concerned about is my grandchildren. Sydney's median house price of $1.4 million beyond the reach of an average full-time worker on 95,581, a situation unthinkable a generation ago. My God, a lot of people only make 30 to 45,000 as well. What are they going to do? With banks now only typically lending 4.8 times what someone earns, a borrower would now need to earn $230,000 to even qualify for a $1.1 million mortgage with a 20% deposit. But even the median Australian house price of $819,886 in January, based on CoreLogic data, is beyond the reach of someone earning $100,000 even with a 20% mortgage deposit. That's because the banks are wary about lending anyone more than 6 times their salary, especially after the Reserve Bank in November raised interest rates for the 13th time in 18 months to a 12-year high of 4.35%. Wow. Okay, so let's continue. You can let me know what you think about that below in the comments. And then you've got this from this clown. Migration Watch Australia said, disgraceful. Queensland Labor have to go. Clown Down Under said, how to end your career in 24 seconds. Let's have a look. This is talking about the grandmother that was killed recently by 5 immigrants. Let's have a listen.
The absence of any reference to youth crime in your speech to the Queensland Media Club would have been noted by more than a few, including the people of those communities. Premier, I'm sure you concede the last 2 summers have been bookended by the murders of young mother Emma Lovell and just 3 days ago grandmother Violene White. The absence of any reference to youth crime in your speech to the...
Yeah, he laughs. Do you think he cares? I don't think he does. Okay, YNWA 2.0 said, how about we pay for 7 one-way flights back to Sudan? I'm happy for my tax dollars to go towards it. Who's with me? Logos Veritas said, Sudanese criminality is nothing new in Australia. Let's make 2024 the year of immigration reform. No more Australian lives being destroyed. The Centrelink money is not enough. Sudanese mother of jailed gang member says she needs larger welfare payments to stop her 6 children from taking up a life of crime. Goodness me. What do you think about that? She needs more money. They're already getting more than normal people on Centrelink. Rukshan Fernando said, updated the 16-year-old teenager who's been charged with the stabbing murder of 70-year-old Queensland grandmother in front of a 6-year-old granddaughter was reportedly out on bail for multiple armed robberies. Police had at the time recommended against bail due to the nature of the offences. There is also criticism of the current court proceedings after a judge limited media access to the proceedings to protect the underage accused from being prejudiced by media reporting. The judge overseeing the media application for greater access to the trial noted that by releasing CCTV footage early, the boy's identification could become known publicly, putting him and the community at risk. They committed a crime. Send them home. My goodness. Okay, and somehow I bookmarked myself here. Australians are going to learn the hard way. I speak to many people, and when you mention this, their eyes go wide and they say, no, we don't need them. We don't want mass things. They don't get it. Most people, they don't get it. If most people, most, if not all, are organised to scare people, okay? Because this guy, working class bro, said we need our arms back. F. John Howard, not all good leaders do things. This was a disaster. I honestly don't think that John Howard was a good leader, but there you go. Sister Barbara Reen said, good to see Sudanese still trending. It's time to stop immigration from African countries, in particular Sudan and Somalia. There is no point. They contribute nothing and are belligerently going out of their way as a culture to hurt us. They're making this country unsafe. They're destroying our welfare system, our health system, and filling our jails on a rotation basis. When they're out of prison, they're hunting us down and justifying their crime because the dollar isn't enough money for them. They won't work and take from those who do work. Enough is enough. And I happen to agree. Okay, Lynn Phillips said paper notes in this image show Commonwealth of Australia. Pull a paper note out of your wallet. Where is Commonwealth of Australia printed on the paper note? It doesn't exist. The Constitution states Commonwealth of Australia must be printed on Australian paper currency, otherwise it's not legal tender. Okay, we've got plastic now, so what's that? That's not legal tender either. It should be on paper currency. So either the paper currency is constitutionally illegal or the government printing the paper currency broke the law under the Constitution. Details matter, people. And Bold Dior said, do you remember being paid by... I do. Remember being paid by cash? Do you remember this? And check it out. Had the Commonwealth of Australia. Does it still? Have a look at your notes. Let me know. Then we have this. Pauline Hanson said, remember yesterday when I said that Labor was abusing the Senate process and using the votes of Green, David Pocock and Lydia Thorpe to rush through complex industrial relations legislation, along with a massive amount of complex amendments without any proper debate or scrutiny? Well, because of Labor's shameless disregard for process and accountability, the Greens were able to sneak in rules that could lead to employers facing prison time, and Labor didn't even notice. Have you ever heard anything so outrageous? What kind of government accidentally passes a law that could imprison people without realising it? Okay, you know what they're going to imprison people for? If anyone contacts anyone, say you're from work, right? If anyone contacts anyone after hours, they can imprison you for it. Crazy. What kind of government votes for amendments written by the Greens without reading them and understanding them properly? Their implications are terrifying. Now Labor is scrambling to fix this mess they've created while trying to blame everyone but themselves. But what else should you expect when Labor lets the Greens, Lydia Thorpe and David Pocock write our nation's IR legislation? The Albanese government is irresponsible, incompetent and out of control. This latest pathetic bungle proves beyond any doubt that the Albanese Labor government isn't fit to run the country. Bosses who breach an order to stop after-hours contact can now face fines and imprisonment after the Greens snuck an avenue for criminal punishment into the new right to disconnect legislation. Very, very silly. Very silly. My God. And last one, lost from Rosita Diaz, said lost ancient city found off Aussie coast. Forget about the lost city of Atlantis. Scientists have stumbled upon a massive forgotten colony off the coast of Australia that could have once been home to hundreds of thousands of people. Various artefacts and signs of human life were discovered in the northwest shelf of Sahul, located off the coast of the northern region of the Kimberley on a landmass that connects to New Guinea. According to a study in Quaternary Science Reviews, the now submerged landmass was nearly 647,000 square kilometres, more than 1.6 times the size of the United Kingdom. The shelf, once thought to be a desert, was filled with habitable fresh and saltwater lakes, rivers and streams, as well as large inland sea that could have supported between 50,000 and 500,000 people. The shelf, once thought to be a desert, was filled with habitable fresh and saltwater lakes, rivers and streams. Oh, did it have a desert and saltwater lakes and rivers and streams and bushland? About half the shelf drowned between 12,000 and 9,000 years ago during the first of two periods of rapid global sea level rise. Well, people were crossing into Papua New Guinea from Australia 9,000 years ago. If that's the case, how can Aboriginals claim their ancestors came here 80,000 years ago? It's gone up to 80,000, started at 40. When in actual fact, they may have come as little as 10,000 years ago. Very interesting, isn't it? And so that's the news for Australia today. I'm sure there's more. That's just what I've got. And I'll see you over on Rumble for the rest of the news. Have a good morning, afternoon or evening, wherever you are, guys, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.